Now, the case against 6 men charged with the murder of whistleblower Babita Deokaran last year has been postponed to October the 6th for a pre-trial hearing in the Johannesburg High Court. The 6 face charges of murder, conspiracy to commit murder and possession of firearms and ammunition. Deokaran was shot and killed outside her home in Johannesburg South in what was an apparent hit. She was a key witness in PPE, fraud and corruption investigations. Now, various civil society organizations have called on government to protect whistleblowers if it is serious about fighting corruption in the country. They made the calls during a memorial rally of the former Chief Director of Financial Accounting in the Gauteng Health Department, Babita Deokaran, in Mondeor, Johannesburg yesterday. The 53-year-old was gunned down outside her Johannesburg South home a year ago in what is believed to have been a hit. Now, let's discuss this further. We're now joined via Zoom by Wayne Duvenage, organization Undoing Tax Abuse CEO. Wayne, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. A year on, and we are yet to learn who organized this hit on Babita. Do you think we'll ever know what really happened?
Well, we have to, and I think we will, but that's only if we have meaningful and professional audits, forensic audits and investigations that take place to get to the bottom of this. I mean, in any normal society, with the amount of evidence that has been produced just by the journalists that have done a lot of the digging, the perpetrators would have been rounded up. And I'm not talking about the people who pulled the trigger, and thankfully there were citizens on the streets that were vigilant and took the necessary photos that helped the police. Otherwise, we might not even have got those individuals behind bars and into court. But the real perpetrators are the people that ordered that hit, that ordered the assassination of Babita, because she knew too much and too much was going to be exposed. Sadly, today, the CEO of that hospital, under whose watch this all happened, and others, still go to work every day. They have their jobs and they're getting paid, and this is outrageous, quite frankly. So, a year on and nothing is really happening is an indictment and a serious failure in government to protect its citizens.
And in fact, it is that investigation by Media 24 that just painted a picture in terms of just what she has uncovered, which is probably why people are saying that at the very least, to carry on her legacy and to demonstrate that her death was in fact not in vain. The number of discrepancies she has uncovered at the Tembisa Hospital, for one, should at the very least be investigated, and those who played a role, as you say, should be held to account.
Yeah, and meaningfully so. And if journalists can get this information at the fingertips of the authorities in Gauteng government, all that information was there. The day that Babita exposed what was going on is the day that government, provincial government, needed to kick into action, defend her, protect her, get that evidence and remove the perpetrators of those crimes. And she would have been alive today had that have been done properly. But they didn't. They didn't heed her call for protection. And sadly, she is no longer with us. And here we sit a year later, with all this evidence, and nothing happens. And now we hear a forensic investigation will take place. That might take months. Who knows? We know, you and I know, civil society knows, that there is sufficient evidence already gathered to call the individuals in, ask them why they should still have their jobs, suspend them tomorrow, go to the businesses that were on the other side of this corruption coin and these transactions with the hawks, have them subpoenaed, charge them and arrest them, and let's move on and show society that we care as a government. That's not happening, and this trust deficit just gets wider and wider. So there's a lot of work to be done, and until the actions that they talk about actually happen, it will just be put down to lip service, and government's the citizens' trust in government will continue to decline. It's very low. It's one of the lowest trusts in civil society has in a government, in any other government in the world. It is the lowest, I believe.
And in fact, your organization and other civil organizations that were marking Babita's murder yesterday through that ceremony are calling now on government to do more. I mean, some of the chilling accounts that you heard from that investigation is that 11 days before she was actually gunned down, she had told her superiors that she fears for her life, and yet nothing was done. You know, Babita's murder, of course, again highlighting just how little care is shown to whistleblowers, you know, in this country. So what can then this country do, government do, to better protect whistleblowers?
Well, I think as an immediate effect, until they roll out the national anti-corruption strategy, the forums that have been worked on, by the way, for years now, 3 years in the making, and still nothing coming to fruition, a task team can be set up, a special unit within the NPA and the authorities that have this power to provide this protection can be set up quite quickly, and all whistleblowers can put their cases while they need protection to them that can be analyzed, and overnight, literally overnight, government could allocate, based on a set of rules, obviously, the necessary protection to those individuals. I mean, we work with whistleblowers all the time. We've had a couple of cases where individuals who've got valuable information to stop corruption in the State Department have pulled back now over this last year as a result of Babita's death, because they just fear the same thing happening to them. So government can move faster, it can put in these temporary teams and setups to deal with this matter while they introduce the formal and longer term processes. But to wait and wait and wait, and more people die, more people are suspended every day that get in the way of corruption, they are fired, their lives are turned into a misery, they leave the country. It is so shocking that we are doing nothing, literally nothing, as a state, as a government, to defend these heroes. And that makes us very angry as civil society and as a citizen of this country.
When, as we wrap up this conversation, you mentioned that you work with a number of whistleblowers, and in fact, sadly, some of those, some of them pulling back because of this tragedy. But just talk to us about just, some of the cases that you work with. I mean, in the event somebody comes to you and asks for security, like we saw in the case of Babita, which she was not afforded, what then happens then? Do you approach law enforcement authorities? What realms do you operate under?
Initially we would assist. In some cases we would pick up their court challenges because of they just want to keep their jobs, their livelihoods at stake. But that became too expensive. We just can't get to everything. We're a small civil action organization with limited resources. So we do give them the advice to follow the formal channels. But as we hear and see that they just get nowhere with those processes, it's very difficult for us. And we are stretched, and we just can't be everything to all people. So we really need government to step up to the plate now and to put in place these, even if it's an emergency measure, to encourage and protect and support whistleblowers, so that we can, just get down to what has to happen, and that is to embrace them, support them, so that we can fight corruption. Without whistleblowers, without the people that have the knowledge, people in positions of authority in this country right now, and we just had another meeting in the education space, the amount of money we spend in building schools and maintaining schools, our research shows that we get probably 1 kilometer of road for every 3 kilometers we spend. And when people start exposing that, they lose their jobs, they lose their contracts, it's sick. So what has to be done now is that government must step up. They must meet with civil society, with the whistleblowers. We can put a plan together very quickly. We can collaborate together and put in place structures and procedures that are going to help a whistleblower. Obviously, they have to pass the certain thresholds and tests of the whistleblowing. But if it's a genuine whistleblowing approach, we need to support and we need to protect them the day they ask for that help, not a week later, not a year later, that same day.
Wayne, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Wayne Duvenage, organization Undoing Tax Abuse CEO, calling there for a dedicated a unit to protect whistleblowers.